Hey, this is Glover Teixeira, UFC light heavyweight champion.
Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alvarez, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenek, and welcome.
And welcome. And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
We Want Picks. To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Top Picks.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. And this is quick picks. So I'm going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 49 Islam versus Green card, and I'm going to try to do it in 20 minutes or less. I'm going to give you my picks, I'm going to give you my bets, and I'm going to give you everything that you need to have a fun, successful night watching and betting on fights. If you want $50 free, we're doing a giveaway. You get $50 for free. All you need to do is go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, make a deposit, let me know after you do, and I'll send you $50. It's literally that simple. That's our giveaway. UFC.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit, let me know. You get $50. And this stream is brought to you by BETU Play to Earn. It is the world's first play to earn sports and esports betting game. Check it out now at betuearn.com. That's bet, the letter U, earn.com. And opening up UFC Vegas 49, we have Victor Altamirano versus Carlos Hernandez. And this is a fun, interesting matchup to start the night. Victor Altamirano is more of a traditional martial artist. He has a solid MMA game. He's fast and powerful on his feet, but also patient and calculated. His takedown defense is not great, but he sweeps well from bottom and has a good enough get-up game that he won't be ridden out in a decision loss necessarily. Carlos Hernandez is a grappler who has okay striking. Striking-wise, he's got solid accuracy, deceiving power. He isn't the most technically sound guy, but he has a nice jab with a straight that follows right behind it. His issue is he keeps his chin up and is almost asking to be cracked. He's another one of these guys that has slick BJJ, but not much to offer for the wrestling. He'll take shots, but they're usually stuffed, and he ends up working to the upper body. You'll even see him throw in a Hail Mary submission, like a flying triangle in some of those exchanges. The reality is he's a well-rounded guy, but he can't control exactly where the fight goes. And it's an interesting fight because we've got 2 young prospects. They're both coming off very close Contender Series wins. And I don't know what all of you Contender Series fade people are going to do. You have 2 guys coming off the Contender Series fighting each other. Who are you going to fade? What are you going to do? It's a real mind meld. Anyway, I do like Victor here. I think he's the better striker. And even though Carlos may be the better grappler, he doesn't really have the wrestling to fully implement that game plan. We just saw Victor win on the Contender Series in a fight where he was taken down 5 times. He does have his own takedowns. He's got solid hands, and I think he can avoid a Hail Mary submission. So the pick is definitely Victor here in what should be an interesting opening fight. Then we move to Ramiz Brahimaj, who's taking this on short notice. He's coming off of that disappointing loss to Court McGee. And my concern is Ramiz doesn't normally have cardio, let alone a short notice fight. And he's fighting Micheal Gillmore. Ramiz is a fantastic grappler, but he doesn't use it as much as he should. You may also remember, I mention this every time we break down Ramiz, the time his ear almost fell off when he fought Max Griffin last year. And what was frustrating about that fight and almost every single Ramiz Brahimaj fight is he ends up striking when he should be grappling. And in his last fight against Court, he ended up accepting grappling instead of initiating his own. He let Court take him down and bully him instead of forcing his own takedowns and implementing his jiu-jitsu, because he's got fantastic jiu-jitsu. It's just not great off his back, right? It's great on top when he can control. Even though he is that accomplished grappler, again, laying on your back and working jiu-jitsu from there is very different than implementing what you're going to do on top. He needed to push the pace against Court McGee and get his own takedowns, and he didn't. When he strikes, he's got good power in his hands. He does have some success, but he doesn't have enough success to win a fight there. All 9 of his wins are by submission. And at this point, it's probably fair to label him as submission or bust. He either gets that submission or he gets pounded on for 3 rounds. Micheal Gillmore's a good striker with solid power and very good timing. He has great leg kicks, and he uses them well to keep grapplers away from him. He's coming off the loss to Andre Petrosyan, where he had some success striking, but had no answer for the wrestling or the grappling. His stats will show that he defended takedowns. So if you dig into the stats for that fight, Micheal did defend takedowns. But if you look at those takedowns, they were sloppy. They were not set up well. And anytime Petrosyan actually set up a takedown, he got it. And breaking down Ramiz Brahimaj is always annoying because he's such a talented grappler, but he seems to use his offensive grappling in those wins. Not his defensive grappling, not grappling off the back. It's only his offensive grappling, and it's only in the wins. He doesn't have any success outside of those 9 submissions. He either slugs it out or he's happy to get grappled instead. This is a very clear striker versus grappler matchup. I don't know how many times I can pick Ramiz and then watch him go out there and not do the one thing he's supposed to do, the one thing he should do to win. But I'm going to fall into that trap one more time. This is the last time I fall into the Ramiz Brahimaj trap. The reality is we saw Micheal Gillmore against Petrosyan. He had success when Petrosyan didn't set up his takedowns well. He touched him, he circled, he did the right things. I just have to assume that Ramiz is coming off that. It was very embarrassing. That's an embarrassing loss for him. He's supposed to be this grappling phenom prospect, and he was out-grappled by a guy that's, he's doing well now, but hasn't had the most storied career. So I assume Ramiz is embarrassed, trying to get that win back. He's going to come out here and finally do what he's supposed to do to get a win. Very clear path against Micheal Gillmore. So this is the very last time I fall into the Ramiz Brahimaj trap. If he loses this fight, that's it. I'm done with the guy, and frankly, they should cut him because he just can't put it together and do what he's supposed to do. Then we get Alejandro Perez fighting Jonathan Martinez, 2 little bangers. Alejandro Perez has solid boxing, solid grappling. He's got nice speed. He throws things with power, but he's happy to get sucked into a firefight. He has a wrestling background, but he doesn't always use it. If you break down the UFC stats, he has 5 takedowns in 12 fights and a pretty solid 70% takedown defense. But he still doesn't use that wrestling as much as he should. 5 takedowns in 12 fights, that's not a lot. That should be a much higher number for a guy that has the wrestling background he has. So he does like to bang it out, and he wants to stay on his feet, which is exactly where this fight is going to take place because Jonathan Martinez also likes to strike. Jonathan Martinez is a very well-rounded guy. He's got nice technical striking, slick BJJ. He has a Muay Thai striking style, which has really nice kicks, and he uses those to control range. On the ground, he gets very slick. He absolutely will snatch something up if it's there. He only has takedowns in 3 of his 8 UFC fights, but he won each one of those by stoppage, and that's because he has power. Legit power. He's got submissions, and when he works in takedowns, it does get people guessing. So he doesn't necessarily need the takedowns to win on the ground. If he mixes in those takedowns, now all of a sudden people are worried about the takedowns, and then he can come over the top and use that power and have the success striking. This should be a really fun fight. We've got 2 grapplers that don't grapple, right? We have 2 grapplers that turn into strikers. I do think this fight is actually dictated by the grappling, though. If Perez goes back to his wrestling, I think he'll be able to take a decision win. But if Jonathan Martinez initiates the takedowns, it will only help his striking or give him something to work with on the ground if he gets one. Martinez is the more well-rounded fighter, and although he does lack the same power that Perez has, he's the more technical striker as well as the more technical grappler. So Jonathan Martinez is the pick. I do like him to win this fight, but this should be a really fun fight, and we'll see what happens on the scales and towards the end of the week. We move over to Jinh Frey versus Hannah Goldy. Jinh Frey, she's a little older. She's well experienced, and that's how she carries herself. She's patient. She doesn't panic in these fights when things get tough. For the most part, she likes to throw big, heavy bombs, and that sets up her wrestling, her cage control, her clinch game. She is a heavy grappler who uses her size and strength. She uses her physicality really well. In her last fight against Ashley Yoder, she actually avoided the grappling and was able to just win with forward pressure and just being physical in the exchanges. She fights like a bully, but it's more controlled, right? She doesn't just come rushing in. She is a little more controlled, but she does use her size. Hannah Goldy has had a couple of tricky matchups in the UFC, but she was able to get her first UFC win just a few months ago. Stylistically, she's short, she's jacked, she's strong as hell, but she doesn't fight that way. She doesn't fight like a physical fighter that looks as strong as she is. She isn't really grinding you against the cage and using that strength to rip you to the ground or push you around. She's a volume striker who is constantly coming forward. She keeps a high energy pace. Again, she's jacked, but she has no real power in her strikes. And she's essentially Energizer bunnying her way to wins, just bouncing around, incredible cardio, and a solid pace. And it's an interesting matchup because I think the odds are actually pretty spot on here. Hannah's a plus 150 underdog at the time of this filming. And Jin's composure and her bully style does really work well for her, especially against younger, less experienced fighters. But I think this is different because Jinh likes to come forward with the strikes and then pressure against the cage or work takedowns. But Hannah should actually be strong enough to circle off the cage or at least not get pushed around and bullied physically. I also think her volume will be able to touch Jinh twice for every one strike that comes her direction. So I actually like the underdog, Hannah Goldy here, to essentially match the power of Jinh and then just completely outwork her in all the striking exchanges. So I'm going with Hannah Goldy to put together a 2-fight win streak here. Then we got Terrance McKinney fighting Firas Ziam. This has been rebooked. This originally was at UFC Vegas 43 in November, but it was canceled because of COVID protocol. Terrance McKinney did not have COVID, but one of his corners did, so you don't have to worry about, are there long-term effects from COVID? But Terrance McKinney was a giant underdog in his last fight. He took it on short notice. Nobody liked him to win, and I didn't understand that. I had him winning, and it was a great underdog spot because he came out and had a 7-second knockout. McKinney is long, he's powerful, he likes to fight at range, but don't let all the knockouts fool you because he's a very good wrestler. He's a JUCO All-American. And in fact, Michael Chiesa was his high school wrestling coach, but he's a much better and much more accomplished wrestler than Michael Chiesa is. Firas Ziam is a long, rangy striker who also works well in the clinch. He managed range with solid leg kicks, and if he works to a clinch, he has solid elbows inside of there. He's the more technical fighter for sure, and he does do a really good job avoiding risk. He picks his shots well, and he only engages when he sees an opportunity, meaning he has no issue waiting on the outside, taking his time, and then jumping in and mixing it up when he sees an opportunity. He takes his time. He looks to point his way to victory. He's not exactly a finisher. And this is one of the few fights on this card where it's a rebook. So they open the lines. Money comes in. Then the lines move. The fight is canceled. So now they've rebooked the fight. So Vegas knows where to open the line now because they know where it ended last time. And Terrance McKinney is actually a slight underdog where the first go around, he was a favorite. So the money came in on Firas last time this was booked. Now it's rebooked. And Vegas has said Firas is the favorite. So it's interesting. Firas Ziam is absolutely the more technical striker, but he is nowhere near the athlete, nowhere near as powerful. And even though he has a 68% takedown defense, he has been taken down in every single UFC fight, including 5 times against Jamie Mullarkey, who's not nearly as good of a wrestler as Terrance McKinney. I think Terrance comes in, looks to trade, doesn't get an early knockout, so he quickly moves to wrestling where he will dominate. I love it. I'm definitely throwing a moneyline bet on Terrance McKinney here. I'm happy to get underdog money. I'm happy to get him in this spot because I bet him money line at minus 120 or something like that the first time this was booked. So I'll take plus money the second time this is booked all day. Then we got Rong fighting Ignacio Bahamondes. Ignacio Bahamondes is huge for this division. Look at him. He's 6'3" at lightweight. He's a striker with a surprising amount of volume and okay power. He's got very good footwork and solid head movement, which does protect him from power shots, and he's got solid takedown defense. He is listed at 100% takedown defense and has defended 17 takedowns in 3 fights, but 12 of those takedowns were in his last fight against Roosevelt Roberts. The issue for him, though, is his takedown offense. He was losing the striking exchanges against John McDessie, so he did the right thing. And he said, I'm losing these exchanges. Let me move to wrestling. He tried to get it to the ground, and he absolutely could not. He was 0 for 4 and ended up losing that fight because he just could not implement his backup plan. Zhu Rong is a good striker. He picks his shots well, and he has solid power. When Zhu is marching forward and dictating the pace, he's a killer. But when he's being backed up and when he's reacting, he can end up a step behind. He has a negative striking differential, which is crazy because he averages almost 5 takedowns per fight. He's got a 75% takedown accuracy. So let's break that down. What that means is he spends the majority of the fight on top. He takes people down, he's on top, and he still manages to get outstruck. So when he's on top, he's only striking and not getting hit. But somehow, the cumulative total in the fight, Zhu Rong was hit more times than he hit his opponent. And right now, the odds have Bahamondes as a 3-1 favorite. And I get it. He's big. He's got great volume, solid takedown defense. But Zhu is actually an okay striker and may have good enough wrestling to get this to the ground. I think if Zhu Rong pressures forward and sticks to grappling, he can absolutely win this fight. My real concern, though, is how hittable he is, and Bahamondes has that insane volume. As of right now, I'm going to pick Bahamondes to win, but I am going to watch this fight closely. I'm going to take a look, see what they look like on the scale, on the weigh-ins. Bahamondes is massive, and if he's coming out looking a little sucked out, looking a little slow, I may flip my pick or figure out a way to bet on Zhu Rong here because I do think he's a pretty live underdog, even though I just went on that rant about how hittable he is. Then we got Gregory Rodrigues fighting Armen Petrosyan. Gregory Rodrigues is a well-rounded guy with good, clean striking. He's got solid power, and he's a BJJ black belt. Even though he has that BJJ black belt and is more than capable on the ground, he has really good takedown defense that he uses to keep fights standing because he likes to slug it out. He's a big guy with power and strength, and the reality is that he's kind of a threat everywhere. He can knock you out, he can submit you, he can take you down, but he's a bit slow. He's physically slow, even lumbering at times, which is something that the right fighting style can absolutely exploit. Armen Petrosyan, he's a fun striker. He's never really seen the judges' scorecard, so he likes to go out there and just absolutely let it fly. He has a professional kickboxing background, and if you go watch those fight, it's not very technical. He is a brawler inside the ring, and he just relies on his chin a lot to keep him in those fights. So he lets people back him up, and then he will plant his feet and just let his hands go. He doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he's got good submission defense and a pretty good get-up game where he just comes right back up after getting taken down. I'm looking forward to this fight because Gregory Rodrigues will absolutely be the better wrestler, the better grappler, and that's his path to victory. But we've seen his chin give out on him under pressure. We've seen him have some issues with his chin. And if you think Rodrigues can just take Armen down over and over and just get it over with that way, go watch Armen Petrosyan versus Dmitry Minakov because Petrosyan was taken down over and over. He was controlled for almost 2 full rounds. And all he needed was one clean exchange, and he got that done. He didn't get flustered. He was controlled the entire time. And then as soon as he had the opportunity, he just bit down his mouthpiece, let his hands go, and just got that done. Gregory's definitely the pick here, but I'm excited to see how good Armen Petrosyan actually is, and I'll be rooting for him. I'm picking Gregory, but I'll be rooting for Armen Petrosyan because I just love if we get these good kickboxing guys that come in here and actually make something happen. That moves us to another Armen. We have Armen Tsarukyan versus Joel Alvarez. And Armen Tsarukyan is a massive favorite in this fight. Massive favorite. And it's for a reason. He's an incredible wrestler. He manages to piece together a really nice striking game as well. He uses solid footwork and setups for his strikes and his takedowns. He's athletic. He will mix in kicks really well. And if you check out some of his fights, you will even see him just throw that straight right, left high kick combination, which is absolutely incredible. Every fight he comes out, it is clear he has added tools to his bag. He improves every single time we see him out there. He's better than the time before. His only loss is a 2016 loss to Islam Makhachev, who's the main event here. And he was able to take down Armen 4 times. So that happens when you're fighting Islam. And he's the only person who has taken down Armen Tsarukyan. Joel Alvarez is a very tall for the division. He's 6'3". He uses that length and reach really well. He has solid kicks, okay boxing, but very good grappling. His grappling is interesting because He hasn't initiated a single takedown in the UFC. He has never tried to take somebody down in the UFC. In fact, he hasn't defended one either. Every single time somebody has shot a takedown on Joel Alvarez, they got it. Every single time. He has been able to submit 2 out of the 3 people that took him down and stop all 3 of those people. So although it might be easy to take Joel Alvarez down, it may not be the wisest decision. And he isn't just a grappler. We just watched him absolutely dismantle Thiago Moises on their feet. And he used that incredible reach and just came across and lit Thiago up with that accuracy and speed as well. I think this is a pretty straightforward fight, though. I think Armen gets as many takedowns as he wants. I think he will absolutely avoid the submissions. I don't even see him attempting to strike or playing that kickboxing game. I just think he comes in here, just starts grappling and gets it done. He obviously does need to worry on the ground because a sloppy wrestling entry could absolutely lead to a grappling exchange that he's on the wrong side of. But I think he wins this fight 99 out of 100 times. So I got to go with Armen here. I will likely do a -3.5 bet. And if you don't know what that is, you basically give up points on the judges' scorecard. That's essentially saying that Armen wins by stoppage or unanimous 30-27. And you get much better odds. So if he's a 3-1 favorite right now, you'll get like -150 odds on that. It's a solid opportunity if you're positive somebody's going to dominate. You're only going to get that at wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. BetOnline is the one partner that lets you buy a round, or in this case, essentially sell a round. So I'm going to grab that. And I have a parlay. I took Armen Tsarukyan and Islam Makhachev. I smashed those 2 together, and I got like -180 or something like that. 2 massive favorites. I think they absolutely both get it done. Then we've got Priscilla Cachoeira fighting Ji-Yoon Kim. Priscilla Cachoeira has heavy pressure, and she throws heavy punches. She's coming off a first-round submission loss after a nice 2-fight knockout streak. She's primarily a striker, but she does have okay takedown defense at 65%. She has very real power for the division, but she can be KO or bust. If you look at the stats, you will notice Priscilla's striking differential is about 4-7, which means for every 4 significant strikes that she lands, she has hit 7 times in return. And that's not good. If you look closer at her losses, she was absolutely dominated on her feet. Her opponents essentially doubled all of her striking totals in those losses. Ji-Yoon Kim is also a striker, but instead of fighting in the pocket and looking for those power shots, she likes to fight at range and pick people apart. I don't normally care about range. You've heard me make fun of people who just pull up Tapology and say, oh, this person has a 1-inch reach advantage, so they're going to win. But Ji-Yoon Kim actually is different. She does use her range well. She does a good job staying on the outside. The most success her opponents have is if they take a shot or 2 to get inside of range and then they grapple. She was taken down in every single one of her 4 UFC losses. And while she has solid submission defense, she doesn't scramble well enough or work back up to her feet well enough to get that going and get her hands going, which is her path to victory. Kim is a sizable favorite in this fight. And as it sits now, she's about -170. So almost a 2-1 favorite. And it makes sense because she's got solid volume, solid cardio, solid distance control. And if Cachoeira can't knock her out, then likely Kim just rides her way, coasts her way to a very busy decision where she doubles the strike. So I got to go with Kim here to just double the strikes of Priscilla. The path to beating Kim is taking her down, riding her out. Cachoeira's not going to do that. So I think Kim plays a touch-and-go game, avoids a big strike, gets it done. But obviously, Cachoeira is going to be live for a knockout because she does possess that kind of power. And this may be a solid Priscilla Cachoeira bet for her winning inside the distance, but a decision, no action. So if she does win by knockout, you get paid. If she loses the decision, which is the most likely outcome, you get a refund. You lose nothing. You get a refund. The bet never happened. Again, that's another bet. You're only going to get it at wewantpicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. The one partner that does that bet is BetOnline. So hop in, make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I'll send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. And that moves us to the co-main event. We've got 2 heavy grapplers. We've got Misha Cirkunov fighting Wellington Turman. Misha Cirkunov, very good grappler. He's got big shots on his feet, solid kicks as well. He uses those big strikes to set up those takedowns, and that's where he shines, right? His takedowns are solid. They're very well timed. He's aggressive on the ground. He's always looking for a finish. He throws up a bunch of submissions, and he can be relied on to stick to his strengths, which is good because he's not really going to win a striking exchange with a lot of people. He needs to go to that grappling to win fights. And it's always nice when you can count on a fighter to stick with what they're actually good at. Wellington Turman, very solid grappler whose striking could use a little bit of work, but it's mostly there to set up his grappling. So they're very similar in that regard. He is slick on the ground, and he's also always looking to make something happen. His striking is not very powerful, but he does have solid entries, and he uses footwork pretty well. His last fight was a scrap against Sam Alvey, and it's easy to say that, Sam should be an easy win. You should blow right through him, but we've seen it. Sam is tough. He's got that unorthodox striking, and he can make things happen. And, in that fight, ultimately, Wellington got some takedowns when he was supposed to, defended some takedowns when he was supposed to, and really took that fight. And this is an interesting grappler versus grappler matchup. Neither one of these guys are going to submit the other person off their back. So that's out of the equation. So obviously the fight's going to come down to who can grapple first and end up on top and who can win those striking exchanges. And if you look at Misha's loss against Jotko a few months ago, he had 5 takedowns. He got 5 takedowns, and their strike totals were identical. So if you only look at that, wow, they had the exact same amount of strikes, but this guy had 5 takedowns. How did he lose that decision? Well, you look a little closer, he was very uncomfortable on his feet. They had the same number of strikes, but he just looked uncomfortable, and the judges noticed that. And yes, he had 5 takedowns, but he was 5 for 17. So Jotko's able to get up, able to control, looking more comfortable. It's clear that Jotko was implementing his game plan and Misha was not implementing his. And that's why he lost that fight. And I'm saying all of this because I actually think this fight is kind of more of the same. I think Misha looks to shoot on Wellington. I think he's pretty unsuccessful because the vast majority of the time, Wellington can defend takedowns. He's got 100% takedown defense here that is a bit inflated. But I can see Wellington defending the takedowns, keeping it on his feet, looking more comfortable in the striking exchanges, and then definitely taking over rounds 2 and 3 because we've seen Wellington's cardio sort of hold up. We've seen Misha fade in the past. So I think Wellington has the better wrestling, the better BJJ, as least his credentials are concerned. I think he's got the cleaner striking, the better cardio. So I do like Wellington Turman to win a decision here. His chin does worry me, though. He has had a questionable chin in the past. Misha does have power. He's not technical, but he can come in with that big power. So that's the one thing that worries me. But I like Wellington Turman here. I think he's just the better, more well-rounded fighter. And that moves us to the main event. We've got a short notice Bobby Green stepping up on 10 days to fight arguably the best guy in the entire division. And because it's short notice, this is at 160 pounds, not 155 pounds. So we've got Bobby Green taking on Islam Makhachev. And we just watched Bobby Green absolutely dismantle Nasrat Haqparast at UFC 271. He was a step ahead the entire time. His boxing was incredible. It was very clean. Bobby Green, he's a busy striker. He's got that showboat style, so his hands are at his waist. He comes looping in, jumping in with those big, long strikes. He's got great volume, incredible defense, solid wrestling as a backup plan. And he seems to be hitting his prime right now. He's got solid back-to-back wins and the most amount of confidence he's ever had. He has a 72% takedown defense, and he will need every bit of that in this fight. Islam Makhachev is most likely the best guy in the entire division. He's an insane wrestler with very good hands. His grappling is aggressive, and he's always looking to advance, punish, or finish. He doesn't just camp out looking for a decision win. We've mentioned this before, but Javier Mendez has gone on record as saying the only time he's ever seen Khabib lose rounds was in training against Islam. So Islam is absolutely the complete package. And this is a very interesting fight because, yes, Islam is a killer, but let's look at who he's been killing. His last win was a short notice win over Dan Hooker. Similar situation as this. 1 week turnaround, he beat Dan Hooker. Before that, he beat Thiago Moises. Just pretty one-dimensional grappler. Before that, he beat Drew Dober. Pretty one-dimensional striker. And if you keep going down that list of people that Islam destroyed, none of them are ranked anywhere near the top 10. None of them are ranked. And none of them have been ranked. So I'm not saying he's a can crusher because he's not. He's obviously incredible. But it's easy to say he's on this amazing 9-fight win streak, but if you look a little closer, it's not exactly, beating fighters 2 through 9 in the rankings. It's not the Justin Gaethjes of the world. And, luckily for him, Bobby Green's not Justin Gaethje either. So, I think absolutely Islam wins this fight. Like, absolutely. I think he's going to run through Bobby Green. But Bobby is insanely tough. He's got that great boxing. He's got solid wrestling. And I actually think this will be Islam's toughest fight to date because he does have that one loss. That was just a flash knockout, so that's not a factor. I do think that Bobby Green is tough. I'm going to say live. I don't know how live he actually is, but Bobby Green's not just going to accept the fact like Dan Hooker did. I'm going to get taken down and choked out, but I don't care. I'm getting paid. That's not Bobby Green. He's not going to accept that. So he's going to fight. He's going to try to win. He's going to bring that animosity in here and try to get that done. Islam will win this fight. But I did just want to throw out the caveat there. People saying he's the best on the planet. He's the champ, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he is, but we really haven't seen a test, and this is a real test. Guys, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with one of those partners. Make a deposit when you do. Let me know. I'll send you $50 as a thank you. Make sure you join our full card breakdown on Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Central. You will get multiple perspectives. You will get fantasy plays, bets, all the information you could ever need. I'll see you on Tuesday. Like, subscribe. See you then.